What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. We're getting ready here to talk about AEW All Out 2020 happening this Saturday. We're starting it off with the buy-in. We're going through the rest of the card. That's what we're going to be doing with our predictions here. The preview is going to be a normal setup that we usually do here. We invite you to drop your comments and tell us your thoughts on what you think is going to happen on this pay-per-view and anything else you want to chime in about. I'll tell you more about that in a moment, but who are we that we're going to be talking on this panel? I am your host as always, Tony Mango. Joining me as always are Stephen Wago. Yep. Cal Wiggins.
Yep.
And Robert D. Feliz.
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Turning the tables on me. We like I said before, we want you to tell us your thoughts. So if you are listening to us on some kind of a platform that does not have any kind of a comment section on it, like a Spotify or a Stitcher or Google Play or whatever like that, or TuneIn, it doesn't even necessarily have all the episodes still after 2 months, then what you could do is you could go over to the YouTube page, because that is the best way for you to drop your comments and for us to be able to see that. And while you're over there and you're telling us your thoughts on this card and your thoughts on our thoughts on this card and anything else that you want to talk about, then hit that like button on the video, because that helps out quite a bit. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already, and ring that little notification bell as well. That's right next to that little subscribe button. And if you feel so inclined to help us out a little bit here and show us some support on the monetary side of things, there is the new join button on the YouTube page, which is basically the YouTube version of Patreon. And there's also the applause button as well next to the like button. So hit up those if you're interested in that. And while we're mentioning that, might as well just toss it out there. If you want us to do more AEW talk and you would like to support us through the Patreon or through the YouTube join membership kind of platform, whatever you want to call it, then the Patreon is out there, and they both have different kinds of tiers. One of them is just a $1 tier. The more people that do that, the better. The $5 tier is the ad block forgiveness one. Then we've got the $10 Darkcast one, where there's a Patreon exclusives or eventually YouTube exclusives as well. And then you've got the Pick Your Poison tier. So that's the one that you can actually request certain kind of special things. So I know that one thing that people have been asking for quite a while now is the AEW tier list. The current plan is to do that in October as sort of a 1-year anniversary from Dynamite, and things are going to shuffle around a little bit with pay-per-view schedules and stuff, but yeah, that is something that is coming up soon. But hey, maybe you want us to do something else AEW related. Maybe we don't do enough AEW talk. Well, pick your poison. That's the whole point. Now, before we get started, I do have to say a quick apology. We had a Skype issue during this show that I didn't get to correct until pretty much 90% of the podcast was done. So you're not going to hear the best quality from everyone else on the show. Blame Skype. I'm still sounding my normal way because I record myself separately through the Audacity program, which was working perfectly fine. It's the Skype side of things, it's the normal whooshing kind of sound that you get for some reason that happens on there, and then you get a lower sound quality and whatever. So I apologize for the 90% of this show that's going to sound worse than it normally does. It does get corrected towards the main event, so keep that in mind, everybody. Apologies, but hey, donate to that Patreon. Maybe we'll get some better equipment. You know what I mean? So we are going to break down the card here. We're going to talk about the buy-in first. We normally will be going through and trying to figure out what other matches are on the card, but I think I can kind of speak for everybody here. Not going to be any more matches, right?
Pretty sure the card is set.
Yeah, 9's enough.
Yeah, the current rumor going around right now is that this is going to be from 7 o'clock until around midnight. So I don't think that that they're going to be in a situation where we're just going to add a few matches to the card. And we already know that Dynamite is over with for this week. There's not going to be any announcements on Dark because that's also over with. They don't have that other show yet. And they're not the type of company that tends to do that kind of stuff. They kind of have that, they kind of have that situated well in advance, it seems, unlike WWE, where they wait until literally the last minute, and sometimes it'll be the kickoff, and they'll go, you know what, we decided to change this match, and now it's no DQ, or whatever. AEW is like, here's the card, you want to buy it? Go ahead. If not, well, then you won't. The end. It's a lot simpler, and I like it so much more. Because now you don't have to do that whole thing where it's just like, well, what are they doing with this? The only thing we
What I
don't know
understand
necessarily
is how is they going to stretch out this card for that long? It doesn't feel like any of these matches deserve that
Did you
amount of
watch
time.
Double or Nothing?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You know what they're going to do? They're just going to make every match 20-something minutes. And it's going to go on forever. And you're going to take a match like Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express and be like, this is 26 minutes long. Oh my God, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
In 2020, does anyone want to see Matt Hardy wrestle for more than 10 minutes?
Matt Hardy does.
Lots of people do, actually. He's one of the more popular veterans that are still around. I think it's because of...
Yeah, his character's popular, but nobody actually wants to watch him wrestle.
He's not
that's
going to be
debatable.
wrestling, I don't think.
I think based on the criticism they received for how short that their main event was a couple of weeks ago, or was it this recent one? No, it was the one before that.
No, it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, considering the backlash they received for that, I assume that people do actually want to see them have a long match, but we'll get to that at that point.
Well, if you like to see cinematic matches, apparently we're getting one of those. That's the tooth and nail match between Big Swole and Dr. Britt Baker as part of the buy-in. So far, that's the only thing that's announced for the buy-in. I think that in the past they've had 2 matches in the buy-in, but typically it's normally 1 or so. So I'm not too into this. The Big Swole and Britt Baker feud is something that's like halfway decent. There's been positives to it, and some negatives too, but I don't dislike the idea of them being on the card. What I dislike is I don't like cinematic matches 9 times out of 10. And I don't think that this is going to be great. I think that the tooth and nail match is kind of funny to call it that, but I don't anticipate these two of these women fighting in a dentist's office being something that I'm going to look back at the end of the night and be like, wow, that was fantastic.
Well, I can tell you, because Tony Khan just did the pre-show media call, he originally wanted this on the main card, but because Britt Baker hasn't wrestled, he feels like a cinematic match is a good way to kind of hide any shortcomings. And for those that were mad about it being on the pre-show instead of the main card, he says he feels like this is a strong enough teaser for the show that it might make more people tune in to the actual pay-per-view.
I don't disagree with the logic,
imagine
but
a promoter though just coming out and saying, "Hey, we're going to put you on the pre-show because you're a bit shit," in a public press conference.
But
That's terrible.
She's been injured. It's not like he's saying, "Hey, fuck you, you can't work." He's just saying she hasn't worked in a while, so this is what we're doing. I get why he's being transparent about it.
No, he shouldn't be that transparent. There's a level to it. Get this fucking clown out of press conferences.
I think it's fine that he talks to the media like they know that this is at work.
Because they know that it's at work.
He's just be pretending that these two are really going to be battling tooth and nail funny.
Literal job of a promoter is to elevate their fucking characters and statuses of their wrestlers. He's talking down about them. It's a terrible look.
Again, I don't think that he's talking down at them. He's saying that Britt Baker hasn't wrestled in 3 or 4 months, and I think it's a testament to how much he values those two in the fact that he's giving them a match rather than saying, well, these two clearly aren't ready to do something yet. We've been building up to this match, but we're gonna leave it off because they're crap. It's giving them an opportunity instead.
I don't get that impression from that. That's a terrible outlook.
To be fair, Baker hasn't been great anyway.
Not in ring wise.
Yeah,
she's been a very, very good promo.
Character wise is interesting.
You need to get a different talent.
I still think that she's going to be the next women's champion. I actually thought that was going to happen here, but I mean, with her injury, I'm sure that changed some plans.
Yeah, I had assumed before they started booking the card that it would be a 3-way with Shida, Swole, and Baker, with either of the latter two getting the belt, because Swole and Baker have done the most in the women's division, and it's leaps and bounds better than anything else, even if, it is subpar to something we're used to seeing. It's just their women's division is a mess, and we'll talk about that more later. But I'm excited for this. I think it'll be a fun way to show the Baker character, who's been one of the better characters on AEW TV, and Swole should win because she's the babyface, but we'll see.
Well, considering Tony Khan thinks Britt Baker's so crap, I guess I'll go with Big Swole winning this match.
Britt's going to win. She's on home turf in a dentist office, so I think she's got Rebel involved as well, and I assume this is no DQ, so I assume Rebel will get involved to some extent. Maybe she'll take some sort of embarrassing spot in order to make sure that Britt stays face. And if you are building Britt up to be the next challenger for Shida down the line, then she probably should win this one.
I want a laughing gas spot where like Tony Schiavone is involved somehow, because Tony Schiavone and Britt Baker have been a random gem of a duo on Dynamite.
I'm 50-50 on this. I can see both winning in different scenarios depending on where they want to go in the future. Big Swole winning makes sense because she gets the revenge on the whole feud situation and they kind of wrap that story up. But Baker is going to be the priority going forward. So it's essentially, do they give Baker the win to really start pushing her towards that title? Or since more than likely she probably wouldn't win the belt until full gear.
Full gear.
I was gonna say full out. I'm like, oh my god, they all these things
right?
kind of sound the same. It's like
How long until full gear?
November.
Okay.
So it's long enough that I think that they could have Swole win and still build Baker up, because they do have that built-in system where they could just say, well, Baker's the number 1 ranked. She could just win some matches. And despite the fact that she hasn't wrestled as long as she hasn't, she's been consistently still on the top 5 ranking, which goes to show you the women's division the way that it is. She was like number 3 for the longest time, and she's still number 5. And that these rankings are awful in a lot of different ways. I track them every single week, and they literally change in the stupidest ways sometimes. This week, I don't even know what the difference was, but somehow people lost points compared to what they had before. I think it was Best Friends. They had like 16 wins last week, and this week they're down to 14 wins. This kind of stuff happens, so it's like these rankings mean nothing. And you can track them on your own, and they look a little bit differently than what they do on AEW itself. So, I mean, they can get away with Big Swole winning this, and then over the course of the whole rest of September, all of October, and however long in November it takes until they get to full gear, Baker could just win like 4 more matches, and she's the number 1 contender no matter what. So, ultimately, I'm going to go Big Swole, but I would not be shocked at all if, knowing that this is a cinematic match, if they do have something built in that it could just be like, oh, you know, Baker hit her with this whatever tool that she was keeping on the side and, you know, got a pinfall or whatever the hell they're going to do. I don't know if it's going to be pins or if it's just going to be a fight, whatever it might be. They might actually have a winner, for that matter. It might be one of those things where it's just like Baker walks away and then they're like, oh, okay, well, that's a tooth and nail match. Kind of like the Wyatt Swamp fight where you get tossed in the swamp and it's like, I don't know, see you later, everybody. That kind of thing. Not digging it. It could be interesting, though. At the very least, it's not another standard match in the ring. And normally I would say that would have been better off in between other matches just to kind of break up the monotony, but they're putting it here, so it is what it is.
I'm like you. I'd actually prefer it on the main card, too. There's a couple of matches on the main card, which we'll get to, where I'm just like, a cinematic match would have gone better here.
I think that is the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express should be on the buy-in instead.
Definitely. It's a good enough match where people might get excited if you see a few spots and want to cash in, but it's not exciting enough for me to like want to pay for a pay-per-view.
Yeah, so that match, I might as well talk about that one. There's seemingly no reason for it to be there. It's just, hey, these guys work well together, right? You like them? Want to see them again? I'm not a fan of that. I've talked before at great length of how WWE annoys the hell out of me when it comes to just repeat matches and stuff. And even though this isn't a feud we've seen over and over and over again or whatever, it's just a nothing match. And that's one of the criticisms for AEW is WWE takes a feud and they just burn it to the ground by beating you senseless with it. Just you know, how many times has Seth Rollins and Murphy fought the same 3 people multiple times per week kind of a thing? That's just where you're like, oh my God, I'm sick and tired of this. Can you do something different just for the sake of doing something? And AEW goes, oh, we're going to do something just for the sake of doing it over and over and over again, to where you're like, oh my God, can you put some substance behind this? Kind of like, you need to kind of merge the two together to have like the happy medium between them. And the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express is literally not a part of this feud. It's Young Bucks being upset that they lost their potential title match because of Hangman Adam Page, who's involved with FTR. And they just happen to have Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express in a tag match against Private Party and SCU, and the winning team fights each other at All Out. Why? Because. So the Young Bucks win, and they look angry when they win, because that's the story, I guess, right now, is they're like not happy-go-lucky anymore or something. And they're going to eat up like 20-something minutes just for the sake of Young Bucks win a match. Honestly, as good as the match might be, I don't really care. I'd rather it just be 20 minutes shorter and not go as long.
And that's very a negative perspective put on this, but I'll try and lighten up a little bit, just along the lines of, I don't think you can really do an all-out show without the Young Bucks involved. I know that they should probably be in a better feud, but the feud going forward is essentially a triple threat tag team match between Kenny Omega and Adam Page, FTR, and the Young Bucks. So if you're going to have the title switch, or you're going to have that singles tag team match later on in the show, then you need to give the Young Bucks something to do. I think the way they did set it up is a little contrived, as Tony said. It's just, these two teams won a 8-man tag on the previous show, so they get onto the show instead. I would prefer something, again, with a little bit more substance, but at least like they had to earn their way onto the card. The other two teams aren't going to be involved at all. So I guess there was at least some stage you get the idea of like having a payday of being on the pay-per-view instead, whereas the other teams missed out. And this match will be probably pretty good. I don't imagine it will go super long. I imagine it will go like 10 to 15 minutes, probably no longer than that. And yeah, the Young Bucks have to win because they have to set up for that triple threat tag at some point, or just a tag match between them and FTR down the line. So they need to keep winning for the time being.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely got you going.
And, you know, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, they're a great team. People love seeing them. Like Callum said, you can't do an AEW pay-per-view right now without the Bucks. They'll be the 4th and 3rd ranked team. So if you want to try to make that play, it's just going to be basically a fight to see who would be the next challengers. That's the way I took it, is, all right, these teams will fight each other, and then they can stake a claim at the champions. Right now, Young Bucks have beef with both Hangman and FTR, so makes sense for the Bucks to win here. This shouldn't go long. It may go long, but I think it'll be a great match nonetheless.
I almost hope they go the other way, just because of how many of us think the Bucks are going to win. It would feel weird if they went the other way and used Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. I don't really see. Honestly, want Luchasaurus to split from the group and just have his own singles run. I love the character. I think it's really unique. But yeah, the Young Bucks are going to win here. I think it's going to be pretty much a spot fest, and honestly, I could pass on the match, but try and be more positive on it.
I'd be cool with Jurassic Express winning and Young Bucks being pissed about it and just being like, damn it, like, why are we not on the top of this division? Like, what's going on and whatever, and kind of telling a story of them having to build themselves back up.
AEW's kind of already done that with the Young Bucks, though. You can't really tell the same story. That was their story coming into AEW. They can't really retread the same thing again, and I'm kind of sick. I know you're talking about like WWE retread. Another trope that I'm sick of with WWE is losers getting matches for titles. Whereas AEW, I know, again, the rankings are a little bit all over the place and they don't make much sense, and I completely understand that one. But at least when you look at like the main 2 title matches, it's winners facing winners. It's people that win all the time facing another person who wins all the time. And one of them has to just win and be the overall champion at the end of it. So I don't want to see because we know that that's the match that's coming sooner or later is the Young Bucks versus FTR. I don't want to see Jurassic Express win and then the Young Bucks have to pick themselves up facing a load of just all the mid-card teams in AEW when you could just have them win this. They're established as like, okay, these are going to be the next challengers down the line to whoever wins that title match. And it's just a lot more straightforward.
Well, I'm working under the assumption that Young Bucks get a title shot at Full Gear, and you got to eat up some kind of time. So if Jurassic Express were to win, you do Jurassic Express versus FTR on Dynamite in the meantime. And yeah, I mean, the Bucks can go around and they can beat every other tag team on the way to try to build themselves back up the rankings. You know, it could just be 1 week it's Young Bucks versus Private Party, which we've seen enough times right now that's not all that interesting to me to begin with, but that's Dynamite. It's a different story. Young Bucks against Natural Nightmares, Young Bucks against Dark Order, and they just sort of go along with, maybe even they wrestle on Dark as well to try to get some more eyes on Dark and just kind of have like, you know, you knock out a few matches, you build yourself back up the rankings, and then Young Bucks suddenly are number 1 contenders, and you get that tag title match at Full Gear. Like, but that is built upon the system that in any fashion, Young Bucks or Jurassic Express come out of this as number 1 contenders, and they haven't done a good enough job for me to be super interested in this past that point, essentially, where I just kind of want them to skip to the next step. Not, yeah, the match is probably going to be great, just considering the teams are talented. But sometimes I don't want just how they refer to it on BTA. Oh, it's an exhibition match. Okay, well, I got a lot of shit I got to do. Like, it sounds kind of selfish or whatever, but it's
I get where you're coming from there, because
right.
At the end of the day, it's just another match for us to cover.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that we've kind of gotten away from the idea that, hey, you can just pair a great exhibition match on a pay-per-view. It shouldn't be the bulk of your pay-per-view, but you can do one highly skilled exhibition match on a pay-per-view. I think that's what this is. I know why you're personally saying you'd like to skip to the next part, but I think this is good for what it's going to be.
And for that matter, I totally understand too that when you're not doing this as part of like a job and you're not covering this kind of stuff constantly, and you can actually sort of filter out what you do and you don't want to watch, it becomes a lot easier to take something like that and just go like, oh, cool, I get to see a cool match. Like, there's a difference between watching WWE, for instance, the way that you want to watch WWE, and watching everything WWE does, where you're like, all right, once September comes around, I got to start watching NXT UK again because I can't check out the spoilers. What did they do on the bump? What did they do on this? Oh, now I got to watch this Fallout video. And then you get to the point where you're just so sick and tired of everything that you're just kind of like, can we just do the important things? And AEW, they don't run that into the ground as much as WWE, so they get a little bit of a pass with that. But from my own personal perspective, and I know that Rob echoes some of the same statements on some of the other situations too, it's just sort of like, man, we're going to have from like 7 until midnight. Can we cut a couple matches out of this kind of a thing where it's just sort of...
I see that ironically, this isn't the match that I would cut.
This is not the match I would cut. Gary,
the match I would cut is, I assume, the match we're going to talk about next.
Assuming that we're all going to be on the same page when it comes to that one, probably. But I'm going to go the Young Bucks. Anybody going to go with Jurassic?
No, I got the Young Bucks, and hopefully I can focus on something else other than Nick Jackson's head going extremely bald.
Fair point.
Young Bucks as well. Yeah, Young Bucks as well.
Well, the match that I think Rob and I are both talking about is the 8-man tag team match, is it?
Oh, yep. Fuck this match.
So, it sucks when you're talking about the idea of, well, you can't really do something like All Out without the Young Bucks. And you can go, but I guess you could do it without Cody and without the TNT Championship being on the line, because their go-to idea was instead 4 members of Dark Order Mr. Brodie Lee, Colt Cabana, who has been part of Dark Order, but he's still kind of just like smiling and all that. It's a weird fit.
He's not he's an associate, I guess. I don't know.
It's just
he likes winning. Does that at least make sense?
They like to have their cake and eat it too, essentially. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. Evil Uno I've never been a fan of, and Stu Grayson is just a guy. Just whatever.
Is he more of a guy or less of a guy than John Silver?
John Silver is the best person in Dark Order by far. It is amazing what he does on BTA. I would take a BTA segment of just John Silver being himself than to watch this match, because it's more interesting to see what he and Alex Reynolds have going on with the whole drink the Kool-Aid thing, and who the fuck is Griff Garrison and like all that other kind of stuff. But they're gonna fight this just hodgepodge of Cody's friends, essentially. It's the two members of the Natural Nightmares, QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes, which it makes sense. They're part of the Nightmare family. Matt Cardona, who's just came in, and it's funny as hell. The promo that they had for this is like Rhodes being all like, "You did that to my brother, and that's like unforgivable, and I'm gonna get revenge on you." And QT Marshall's like, "Yeah, I'm basically like family. I might not be blood related, but I might as well be." And Scorpio Sky's just kind of like, "Hey, I'm there because I'm a guy and I'm cool, and they want to put me on the card, and my partners don't have anything else to do, so why not? Yeah, I'm awesome. I'm the best pure athlete." It's the catchphrase we're going with for me now. And Matt Cardona literally is like, "I don't even work here." It's like, oh god, that's what you decided to go with for.
See, but in fairness, Cardona makes more sense than Scorpio's guy does.
He does. That's what's so weird about this. But it's like, man, this could have been even better just by adding more people into the mix for the logic of it. Like, you've got Anna Jay and Tay Conchi, and you've got Brandy Rhodes, and you've got Allie. Why is this not Brodie Lee, Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, Anna Jay, and Tay Conchi against at least this group and Brandy and Allie?
This match is already a clusterfuck. You want to make it even worse?
Yeah. I don't know what your solution.
I mean, at this point, you might as well pour more gasoline.
Well, they're gonna.
Exactly.
They're gonna be fighting at ringside anyway.
But I don't know why. Hold on. I just don't know why Tony's solution wasn't, let's remove Cardona and Sky, plug in.
No, I'm saying plug the four women into there on top of this. Make it because it doesn't matter. That's the thing. This is stupid, and it's literally a match that should have been taking place at Dynamite.
So what should have happened here is Cody drops the title to Brodie Lee, right? Like, I know that they wanted to do it on that Saturday Dynamite, maybe to take eyes off of TakeOver, I don't know. But, like, that should be the thing here, because it would have been a bigger moment.
That should have been, or they could have done the rematch for the title here. And maybe the whole situation is Cody's filming something that's one of those things going around now that's why he's not on the card. But it's your company. Show up for the one night and say you can't do the filming then or something like that. Like, depending on what they're doing and whatever, then I don't know.
He will be on the show. He will be on the show.
That's going to be even worse if that's the case too. Because then at least if you can throw out the idea that he can't get around not filming this project with Stephen Amell, then maybe you can say, well, we just couldn't get it to work, so we had to figure out an alternative. My alternative would have rather have been Brodie Lee defending the TNT Championship against Scorpio Sky or Matt Cardona or something like that, rather than this hodgepodge tag team match. But if you're going to go with that, then don't have Cody interrupt here and have it be like, oh, look at that, Cody wants his title back, and he's going to, fight him on Dynamite in the next few weeks. Because I don't want to watch the tag team match that leads up to that point. Then that's a Dynamite segment leading up to a pay-per-view rather than a pay-per-view leading up to a Dynamite segment. And I know that people do the argument of, well, TV's different the way that it used to be. Now, pay-per-view things lead to TV and TV leads to pay-per-view, and you got a 50-50 split. To me, that doesn't... You can still do... Like, this should be a Dynamite thing because it's got a lot of people involved, and if you're interested in it, you might watch it on Dynamite, and you can get away with it. but the bigger match is the title match, and that's the one you have to pay for.
Am I wrong for thinking that this could have also been a good buy-in match? I mean, you've got Zack Ryder.
A buy-in match. I don't know about a good buy-in match.
I mean, like, in terms of getting people who maybe haven't seen AEW, you've got Zack Ryder, you've got Luke Harper, you know, Colt Cabana, people have heard of. It could have gotten people talking.
Well, I disagree with Tony's sentiment that this shouldn't have been on the pay-per-view. I think this is a match that should, not necessarily this particular 8-man tag, but the Dark Order thing should have been a pay-per-view match, because essentially the draw for this card is the top 3 matches. It's the world title match, the Jericho Orange Cassidy match, and the tag team title match. So the rest of the card, people aren't buying for those matches. They want to see good matches, obviously, but they're not buying for those matches. So you use the Dark Order storyline in order to have Cody come back, and he can be a draw for an episode of Dynamite. So you shouldn't make every single match on your pay-per-view, or you don't have to make every single match on your pay-per-view the biggest match it can possibly be, because then you don't have anything for your Dynamite show.
But then why do that for WrestleMania or SummerSlam or anything else like that?
Well, we're not talking about
WWE. And they don't anyway.
But, like, then why bother paying for the pay-per-view? Why not just watch the 3 matches that you want to watch when they pop up on some YouTube channel?
That's what a lot of people do.
That'll be about a year and a half away from now. But in the same way, you can make the argument, why don't you just like not pay for the pay-per-view? And people don't do that anyway. It's just like there's a million different iterations you can save that sort of thing.
This feels like such a throwaway match to the point where I'm like, why did you even hire Zack Ryder?
Well, apparently he doesn't.
5-match deal, and this is apparently the second of 5 that they're going to use him for. It's fine. I just think it's a bit thrown together. You know what I mean?
I don't think it should be an 8-man tag. I think it should be Brodie Lee versus Dustin Rhodes for the TV title.
I'd watch that.
They would have
with a shit ton of like overbooking and run-ins.
Yeah, you can do all that if you want to, but I think that those two would have had the best match out of all 8 of these people involved.
Yeah, you know, at least in that scenario, you can even make it a lumberjack match and have that. Make it to where it's like you get Cabana and Uno and Grayson and Silver and Reynolds and Angels and Preston Vance and Anna Jay and Tay-Kon-Chi and am I missing anybody else? That's the Dark Order's like 100 people.
I don't know, man. I've never seen a good lumberjack match.
But at least in that scenario, you've got something where it's like, all right, the title's on the line, and you get these people that they can all fight on the outside of it, and they're technically part of the card. And
so here's where I weigh in on that. I don't subscribe to the philosophy that, we got to get everybody we possibly can on the card. It's okay if people are off of the card. Like Sky, yes, I get what you're saying with Sky, and that he is great and is one of the best pure athletes, but he doesn't need to be here. You don't need to shoehorn him in here to get him in here. Like, you could have done what Callum said, Brodie Lee, Dustin Rhodes, get QT Marshall in, get Brandy and Allie, whoever you want, but some of these puzzle pieces are just being forced in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for you to, you got the Cardona connection, and you got the Rhodes and QT Marshall stuff. Why is Scorpio Sky fighting on Cody's behalf, other than the fact that they wanted Scorpio to be on the card?
I guess the story is that they had a match recently for the TV title. They grew up, had some mutual respect between each other following that match, and so now Scorpio's on his side.
For that matter, why not throw Warhorse in here?
Fuck Warhorse.
I'd rather. I mean, Scorpio Sky over Warhorse.
Right, but I mean, like, it's if that's their justification,
I don't watch Dark as religiously as like some other people do, but I don't know whether Scorpio's been feuding with people from the Dark Order.
He hasn't. Scorpio's only thing here is that they seem to have singled him out as he's going to be the guy moving forward. They've kind of phased out Daniels and Kaz a little bit, and they just really want him on here. And you know what? More power to him, but I just think you could have done more with the Dark Order here.
I'm with Robert, where I'm just like, I don't need everybody on the card too. It used to be that, hey, I didn't make the cut, I'm going to have to try harder and raise my stock. This mentality of just get everyone on there because everyone deserves a paycheck is wrong, and the card's going to suffer for it.
And we have a 21-man casino battle royale where a lot of people are going to get on the card anyway. And
Sky could have been in that and been a favorite to win it too.
Right. And you can have, like, Dark Order is not the most important thing in the world. I know that they really love this stable, and to a certain extent it's okay. Like, it's gotten better, but I don't think anybody's going to go crazy if Evil Uno's not wrestling on the card, if he's just in the entrance for Mr. Brodie Lee against Dustin Rhodes, you know?
No, I don't think that you need to have them all competing on this one. You do have to have a presence on there because now they are pushing them heavily. Yeah. Brodie Lee's the new champion, so they need to have a presence on this card. It doesn't necessarily have to be this 8-man tag, which I don't think is going to be anything particularly special. I feel like it would have got a lot more out of it by having Brodie take on either like Dustin because he's Cody's brother and he got taken out as well, so that would make sense logically. I mean, even if you were going to do Matt Cardona because you have him and you were going to have him have the title shot and it's just someone for Brodie Lee to run through before, like, to build on his recent victory, then yeah, so be it. I just don't think you needed to have an 8-man tag. But then again, they seem to have set a precedent that's, and I don't know if they follow this through like completely, but they don't really seem to defend the TNT title outside of Dynamite.
Well, they only had the one pay-per-view, and that's where they crowned the champion. So they do have
crown it on pay-per-view, did it? Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did Double or Nothing.
It was Double or Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, so like right now they've got 100% defense rate, except for the fact that they're not doing it here. So now that splits to 50-50. But not having the title defended on Dark, I don't think means anything. And they will at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, I just really think that this is one of those bad calls. It should have been Brodie Lee defending the title against somebody, whether it's Sky or Rhodes, or they start a new feud with somebody, because Sky's just thrown in here for the sake of it. Why not throw in, I don't know, who else doesn't have a match on this card? Why not? Yeah. Like, you know, at that point, it is what it is. This is just going to be Dark Order wins, and hey, don't they look strong still?
Yeah, Dark Order wins.
For the record, though, Dark Order wins, and I like everything that they've done with Dark Order since the inclusion of Brodie Lee.
I think the Dark Order wins, but I wish they wouldn't. I don't like the stable at all.
If they win, do they buy more lawnmowers?
No, they got. Well, first of all, they're gonna get Chili's again because you got to celebrate with Chili's.
Okay. As someone, I want to add this point is here. As someone who doesn't watch Being the Elite, I'm pissed off about how many times they reference Being the Elite on any single story they've got going on. They can't assume that the few 100,000 people that watch every Being the Elite episode is also watching every single episode of Dynamite and so on and so forth. They need to either explain it or not reference it. One or the other.
Fair point. No, fair point. Like we're joking around about it, but yeah, fair point.
No, it's very jarring when you're watching the show and they just go, yeah, you know, Dark Order here, this really serious stable that beats people up and they're a cult and whatever like that. They're going to get some baby back ribs. And you're like, what? Why are they doing this?
But like, it's almost the opposite of what Tony does with the media being a good thing. This is a bad thing where they constantly assume that everybody is watching every bit of independent wrestling and everything that they're doing. Like, that's why I didn't like the Warhorse stuff or the, remember when they brought in Butcher and Blade and they were just like, oh my god, it's the Butcher and the Blade, and we're just, who the fuck are these guys? They need to explain better what is popular on the internet.
If you're JR, then you definitely were like, who the fuck are these guys? Because he was just like, that's the Blade and the whatever guy, and
the cleaner,
the hatchet man. You know, push. What was the thing I was complaining about that he did the last night or whatever?
It was we want to entertain you. We want to see you. Like, we want to entertain you.
Like that, the go home message of like, hey, remember everybody buy the pay-per-view.
I wasn't as bothered by it as you were, but I did understand where you were coming from. Like, it felt weird.
It was so weird because it's like, to me, I don't know. I mean, I know that things are a little bit different than the way that they used to be. I don't think that it should be in some ways. Like, we talk all the time about how it's stupid how in WWE the interviewers have to stare into a void of nothingness at the end of the interview instead of being like, well, that's what so-and-so said, back to you. Like, I don't know why they stopped that. But like with this, I mean, my go home thing for a pay-per-view in my mind should be like, we got all these great matches coming here. Like, tune in this Saturday, check out the buy-in at 7:00, pick it up on Bleacher Report Live, buy it on whatever Fight TV, whatever you want to do like that. We can't wait to see you this Saturday, everybody. All Out's coming. Woo! Like, kind of thing. Instead, JR's like
screaming over the top of some chaotic mess going on, making you want to tune into the next big thing. The art of the go home is lost.
Instead, JR is like, well, if we want to entertain you, let us entertain you. Come on. It's like, what?
In fairness,
I'll be your friend.
Had good go homes, but this one was a little different because it wasn't like a massive brawl. It was just MJF beating up Moxley and JR just making that hard sell, but now the hard sell kind of sounds like Grandpa inviting you for
it really was, because it's like, well, there goes MJF.
Really misses you.
There goes MJF attacks Moxley. Remember, we're gonna get this, whatever. Can you buy the pay-per-view? Come on, just do it. We wanna show you this stuff. Come on. See ya. It's like, okay.
To me, that doesn't sound like Raw. It sounds like someone like a little kid who's just trying to get his dad to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Oh, could be that too.
Come on, I made a paper airplane. Come on, see.
The pitch really does sound whiny, and please come over.
Come on, watch. Please, come on, watch. We got picture in picture. It's coming right now.
Oh, okay.
He loves
that.
that.
All this time on JR. Would you be upset if they picked up Mauro Ranallo and replaced JR with Mauro Ranallo?
Mauro Ranallo's they really should get Mauro Ranallo now that he's free. He's like the best sports commentator that you can get right now.
I'll talk about this a little bit more, I guess, on the hot tags, but I don't think that that's going to happen. But if it did, I wouldn't blame them at all for doing that, because Mauro would be a step up in that regard.
I'd be cool with Mauro and Tony.
Shits right now.
I love Tony Schiavone. I think Tony, and he's done work with Jericho's been great. Taz has been okay. I'm not in love with Excalibur, but Excalibur's not bad, But Tony's been my favorite by far.
I don't know why having a mass commentator just bothers me.
I'll tell you what bothers me is between WWE and AEW, I would be fine with going a solid month without hearing Tope Suicida. It's the number one thing people just, oh my God, I'm so sick and tired of it. Every match, there's 6 of them. There's 10 matches each show.
Maybe they should fucking stop the Tope Suicida.
They should.
Yeah, maybe all this high spot wrestling that I've been bitching about is all they've got to call, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
heavyweight wrestlers should wrestle like heavyweights, and the cruiserweights wrestle like cruiserweights.
They should.
It's almost like there should be variety.
Yeah. Fucking weirdos. Who are we to ask for variety?
And for anybody that's gonna complain, it's not all that different when it's like, oh, it's Tope con Hilo.
And it's so tongue in cheek too. Like, it's like, hey, they did the fucking dive thing where they dive. That's the 5th time tonight. It's like, Come on.
Now 3 people did the dive together. We didn't see that in the previous match.
That's another issue I have with AEW commentary, is they're so tongue in cheek at times. When it's a really good story, they get into it. It's much better, but sometimes, like, you'll see it during Young Bucks and Jurassic Express, they're going to be so damn cheeky about everything, because they know that everything is a wink and a nod to the audience.
And they know that the audience that is going to absolutely love Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express is going to eat up the idea of it being like, oh my God, look at all these super kicks and stuff. And for my money,
JR flat out says on his podcast, yeah, I fucking hate that they don't use the tag rope. I fucking hate that, they're just in the ring the whole match. And I hate the leg slap. I don't even acknowledge it anymore. Like, that's stupid. Like, you got this, your lead commentator saying this on his own platform.
I think the highlight of commentary for this past week was that thing on Dark where Tony Schiavone and Taz Taz says something about that he hates that Justin Roberts says the bad boy Joey Janela, and he's like, my toe gets all bent sideways or whatever, and Tony Schiavone's like, I think he got gout, and it just completely killed Taz to where he couldn't know how to respond with that. That was great. Yeah, we're all going Dark Order. It's a thing. Yeah. Whatever. We got a Broken Rules match going on here. Matt Hardy.
It's a fucking last man standing match. Stop.
Yeah, it's a last man standing match. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara. They're calling it Broken Rules just because, kitschy name. The same as a tooth and nail match, that kind of a thing. Matt Hardy's lost every match, I think, so far to Sammy Guevara. And if he loses this one, then he leaves AEW, which it's going to go, I mean, obviously it's going to go one of two ways. Matt Hardy wins or he loses. That's how the match works. But it's either going to be he wins the match because he has to win, or he leaves AEW, or they do that kind of BS where it's like, Matt Hardy's going to have to leave AEW, but Big Money Matt was just signed. I don't want that to be the case.
Matt Hardy should just win here. There's nothing wrong with telling the obvious story of Matt Hardy wins. Guevara ain't gonna lose anything. You know what I mean? He's gonna work a last man standing match with a veteran wrestler who pioneered a lot of the hardcore stuff that we see today. So it'll be good. Matt Hardy wins, but I think this will be a really fun match.
I wish they'd go with a Texas Deathmatch rules, just because nobody ever utilizes them anymore. I actually think Matt Hardy's winding down his career, and he's going to take more of a backstage role, so I expect Sammy to win.
But he just started, though. He just picked back up with AEW.
Yeah, he was winding down before. Body probably fucking hurts.
Didn't
his pelvis and his fucking lower half of his back fuse?
I just think Matt is good at making people think, oh, this is it for me. And I'm tired of him with the bait and switch, so I'm going with Hardy wins here.
I think that if Matt Hardy is to lose this match, then that is the end of him in AEW. Just because, I don't think that's like completely out of the question, because his run with AEW probably has gone completely the opposite of how he expected it to go. Because he got signed at the worst possible time in basically in the world's history, pretty much, like his own one. But he got signed at a really terrible time. It means that his stuff with the broken gimmick coming back couldn't really get over to the level that he was hoping it to. They didn't get to do that blood and guts match that they were built up to do. So he was kind of left in the ether, just being the hanger-on of the Elite for a little while. Now he's having this feud with Sammy Guevara, who I think he over time wants to put over and wants to help establish as a top star in AEW. But at the moment, you would say that it's most likely, like my prediction would be that Hardy wins, but I think if Hardy loses, he might just say, okay, I tried this AEW thing out, and just not so much due to how AEW treated me, but just due to how circumstances worked out. Maybe I just take a break for a little while. Maybe I come back to something else once things clear up a little bit. Maybe go back to Ring of Honor, go to like NWA, do something else for a little while. Just see this as a nice little experiment that's failed to a degree, and maybe something I can come back to in a year's time when people have forgotten about this, or would be happy to see me come back, or something to that effect. So I think if Hardy loses, he's out of AEW for good. Maybe not for good, but for a considerable period of time. But I think that Matt Hardy's going to win.
I would like it if Matt Hardy lost. I'd like to see him not stick around in AEW, funny enough. Not only just because I think that maybe it'd be better off if he did just go back to WWE or whatever, but also just because, this run with AEW hasn't been great. And lately, it seems like maybe he even realizes that, because this is a weird thing going on right now with Matt Hardy, where he came in and it was like, hey, look, I'm doing the broken Matt Hardy thing again. Nobody can react, so whatever. And I've got all these characters and I'm doing all this stuff. And then out of the blue, he just sort of says, nah, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just going to be Matt Hardy. And they don't even have him be Matt Hardy with Private Party anymore. So it does sort of feel like maybe they are pushing him on the outs and that they're giving up on all that. And we haven't seen too much dedicated towards this. I mean, this week, look at the build that they had. Sammy Guevara's doing the cue card thing during the picture-in-picture. Matt Hardy attacks him, and they come back from the break, and they're like, hey, Matt Hardy did this. Remember, they have a match. All right, moving on to the next segment. So maybe it is just a matter of them being like, all right, well, this partnership didn't work out. Matt, all right, we'll see you later. And maybe he leaves that way. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it as well, as long as he doesn't go back to WWE. Because it's already been proven time and again, he'd be absolutely miserable in WWE. He needs a place where he gets creative control. So he should go to Impact or Ring of Honor or something like that, where he's going to get that level of control.
Maybe he's realized that he doesn't need that, though. Maybe he wants to just be...
I don't think he's realized that, especially not in the short time frame he's been with AEW. I agree that he definitely had other plans coming in, and it hasn't worked out the way he thought it was going to. I also think that weird, I just want to be Matt Hardy came out of nowhere. But at the end of the day, I think it's another Matt Hardy swerve, like how he was like, hey guys, I'm going to retire and accept the producer role at WWE. I'm so happy here. I'm so happy working backstage at WWE. And then he just was like, I hate it here. I want creative control. He's always just trying to make sure he's the talking point of everything he does, or of everything that's going on in wrestling.
In a world where Eric Young is Impact World Champion, I think he'd be a better fit for TNA. Impact, whatever you want to call it.
In fairness, Eric Young, he can go to Impact and be a top guy because he's, in that world, he's seen as a god.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when Matt does eventually want to just hang it up completely, he knows that he's always got a producer slot in WWE when he wants it. Or he can have a trainer's role or something to that effect. I think still when he feels like he can still go and he can still contribute, he wants somewhere that is going to give him creative freedom. So whether that's with AEW or whether that's with any other promotion outside of WWE, he's going to pursue that for as long as he possibly can. Because it's not like he seems to be hard up for money or anything like that. He seems pretty settled. So
I'm actually worried about him being in a non-wrestling role at all, because this is the longest he's gone without getting in trouble. Law or with his personal life or something weird. Seems keeping him busy keeps him behaved.
I believe him that he's more genuine when he says fatherhood really changed me, as opposed to Jeff, who is very open about the fact that he will forever struggle with his demons.
I just kind of think that maybe there's a chance. Maybe it's just BS. Maybe that's what they're trying to bank on people thinking is the case. Maybe there's a chance being away from Jeff and being in AEW and seeing that the grass isn't necessarily greener made him go, screw it. If I'm just going to do this kind of stuff, I might as well do it where I'm making more money in WWE and not necessarily wrestling. Maybe he does take that backstage role at this point.
Well, do we know he's making more money?
No,
he would have done in WWE than he would have done. And also, once if he was to leave AEW, and he's not going to make any more money than he was at AEW by going back to WWE, because WWE know they don't need Matt Hardy. They're not going to pay him through the teeth to just keep him around, especially if he just takes a backstage role.
They would absolutely pay him just to keep him away from everybody else, because that's how they do business. But
yeah, but they wouldn't pay him significantly more. I just don't feel like money's his motivation right now. His creative freedom is his outlet.
If this is the creative decision that he's trying to make,
that's why I think that he might leave and go somewhere else. But I just don't. I don't see him going back to WWE anytime soon.
At the very least, the stipulation did its job in that we've talked about it for quite a while, because they even threw it out there that he may leave.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, that's the most interesting thing that can happen out of this. But I don't think it's happening. I just assume that that's an extra thing to be like, hey, it's going to get people talking about it, but Matt Hardy wins, and that's the end of the feud.
If I'm honest, I don't want to actually see the in-ring product with these two, so I'm hoping this match is overbooked.
I'm assuming it's just spots.
When do you think the golf cart's going to get involved?
Immediately. Or not, not immediately, but pretty early on in the match.
I don't
I would love a spot where Sammy Guevara gets in control of the golf cart,
Yeah.
and so he's really excited about he's going to be able to run down Hardy, and then Hardy moves out the way, and Sammy just goes for a war or something like that with the golf cart.
That'd be funny, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna book Looney Tunes, just do it. Like, just have have Sammy Guevara trying to run him over, and then an anvil falls.
Well, if we're booking Looney Tunes, can we do a thing where he thinks he's I'm in control now, and I got this, and then it stalls and it's not running, so he gets out of it, and then it just starts driving itself essentially and drives over Sammy Guevara.
We're gonna do that where he drives it, have him paint the big hole on the wall so he thinks it's a tunnel and he drives right into it.
So he's chasing Matt Hardy backstage, and then he loses track of Matt Hardy, and he's like, "Where did he go?" Whatever. And then he sees this beautiful woman that points him in the wrong direction, and it's Matt Hardy in drag. Then Sammy Guevara puts his the finger in the gun, and it backfires, and they do all that kind of garbage.
New Looney Tunes now on HBO Max. There's a pretty plug for HBO Max.
I know. Now I'm kind of feeling like instead of watching, for instance, that 8-man tag team match, I might rather watch an episode of Tiny Toons or something. I haven't seen that in so many years. Maybe watch that. What was it? The Happy Land, or whatever it was called.
The movie? Yes.
Maybe watch that instead. But I won't, because it's my job. So I can't really. Can't be like, hey, that Young Bucks and Jurassic Express match, yeah, it's probably fine, but I was watching Tiny Toons instead. Can't do that. So I'm going Matt Hardy. Anybody going Sammy?
I guess not.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm going Sammy. Sorry, my mic was muted.
Let's go with the AEW Women's World Championship match. Hikaru Shida is the champion. She's going in to defend against the NWA Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, who had her first AEW match this past week, beating former WWE trainer at this point, Serena Deeb. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the main thing that they were harping on with Serena, they were like, she's a veteran, all this other kind of stuff, but it's like, she could get a job here. Because she doesn't have a job now. I'm like, God damn, way to rub that in, kind of,
Well, but isn't that what they do with a lot of the women? Because so many of the women that we've seen over the last couple of months don't have a job there or anywhere.
Well, their women's division, we've talked about this a brief little bit when we were addressing the tooth and nail match, but man, this is not a great women's division, and it hasn't been, but it's struggling even more now than it ever has.
Well, to be positive, Thunder Rosa is a fantastic get for them. I watched her in NWA. I love the character. I love the vignettes they did about her MMA career. If they wanted to pull a fast one and have her be Shida, I'd be really happy with that.
Here's the problem. It's not a get for them. The NWA is still a thing. Fightful Select reporting Thunder Rosa may be the booker of the NWA. So at the very least, if she was to win, all this would mean is more of a crossover, but Thunder Rosa won't be full-time AEW. I think she is a great worker. I would like to see her be full-time, but that's not to be as of yet. This is a cool match that they're just booking because people want to see a decent women's wrestling match. But I really think it's time to start hiring some, stateside talent for your women's division.
Fundamentally, this, at least on paper, should be the best women's match that AEW has ever put on. So, Hikaru Shida's great, Thunder Rosa is great. They'll put on a really good match, I imagine, for the title. Hikaru Shida will almost certainly win, just due to the fact that Thunder Rosa is only here as a loan from NWA. I assume maybe as part of the deal, they'll have Hikaru Shida go over to fight Thunder Rosa in a match somewhere down the line as well, when the NWA is doing more shows again. Or something to that effect. At least this is like opening up a bit of communication between NWA and AEW, which could lead to some fun crossover matches. We already know that Nick Aldis has worked with Cody Rhodes before over the NWA title, so maybe he comes in at some point and some other people start working together. It's just good exposure for both sides, so I don't really see any harm in both sides working together a little bit more. But I think that this match would be it should be a really good match. Should be something that we haven't really seen to the level of since I don't really know when. Like, I liked some of the matches that Riho and Nyla Rose put together, but I think this should be on another level from that.
I mean, fundamentally, the idea that they threw this match onto the card, you would think that I'd be like, oh my God, there's not even a setup for it and whatever. No, I mean, it's a cross-promotional thing that feels like a big fight feel with no effort at all. It's an easy way to get around it. You have another women's champion against your women's champion. So she's already a viable contender because she's the champion of a completely different division. You know, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that that's the case. From what I've seen of Thunder Rosa, I've liked Thunder Rosa, so I'm interested in that. And it's kind of a win-win. Like, I mean, Thunder Rosa loses this. Maybe Shida pops up on an NWA Power episode and loses to Thunder Rosa. Or maybe this is the start of a working relationship in a different way. And we've seen many, many instances of AEW being pulled in the, you know, we've said before, they're pulled in different directions. It's Kenny Omega clearly wants it to be the New Japan type of a side of things. Tony Khan wants to make his own WWE. Young Bucks, they're kind of bringing the ROH stuff to it. And Cody's going, I love WCW. And it's like the NWA and WCW connection is there. We've gotten plenty of things already with the Rock and Roll Express. So we know that there's a working relationship with the NWA and I was going to say in WCW and
No.
and then I was just going to say TNA and AEW. So I think they want to do a partnership between them. I think that AEW views NWA as almost the ECW feeder system to WWE, where NWA is never going to be as big of a platform at this point as AEW. But if they work together,
a weekly television show,
right? If they work together and it's like, we'll help out the NWA every once in a while and we do this kind of spot and we can bring those guys in and then maybe those guys want to work for us and whatever. They already picked up Ricky Starks. They have that relationship with Nick Aldis. Now Thunder Rosa is part of the mix. They picked up Eddie Kingston. They're probably working together in some fashion. And hey, gets Thunder Rosa a paycheck, gets her more eyes, gets more eyes on the NWA product in general. Why not? You know? And hopefully the match is great enough that it makes people want to see more of those kind of things. And hopefully, for that matter, they do something down the line where maybe Thunder Rosa does win the AEW Women's Championship a year from now or something like that. For now, she's not going to.
Honestly, what I see is her losing here, and now that they're doing those weekly pay-per-views for NWA, I could see Shida going over and losing in an NWA women's title match over there.
Yep.
That way they both successfully defended their belts. They both look stronger against the competition. And if they want to do a trilogy at some point, that'd be cool too.
Maybe Shida wins, Thunder Rosa lays her out after the match or something, then Shida's like, all right, I'm going to fight you for your title. And then Shida loses, so then they have the whole, like, well, we respect each other now type of a thing or something. That could work.
Yeah, Thunder Rosa, Shida all around?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think so.
Shida all the time, yeah.
And, man, if they didn't have this to pull out, what the hell would they have done? I mean, they would have done, I guess, Big Swole and Baker and Shida in a triple threat or something, but they don't have Statlander. They already did the Penelope Ford match. They already did the Nyla Rose match. They would have been.
They could have given Ivelisse and D.M.D a match, maybe, because they won that tag title tournament.
Imagine that
tag
tournament actually meant something.
Yeah,
well, with how much we had to say about the Thunder Rosa being put in that match, I guess they made the right decision, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Ivelisse and Diamante aren't technically signed yet, right?
Nope. And that's the annoying thing, is they are using these people and not signing them when they know they need more women's talent. Have they even been on the show since winning the tournament?
I don't think so. Unless it's just that they were hanging around ringside, but that doesn't count.
And I know we've seen Nyla Shida enough, but you could have really told an easy story about Vicky Guerrero coming in and, hey, look, now Nyla's on a tear again. Here's another match. They've done nothing with Nyla since Vicky was added to that either. I don't understand. Overall,
I'm okay with that, though. I'd rather see this than a Nyla Rose rematch. Of course, it'd be better if they did something with her, but, can't ask for too much. Well, at least when it comes to asking for much, I think we're going to get something great here with FTR against Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega for the AEW World Tag Team Championship, because this match, more than any other match on the card, is the one that I'm looking forward to.
Oh, it's going to be match of the night already. It's obvious.
Amen. This fucking match is going to be awesome, and FTR will win, but that doesn't matter. The match will be great, and I can't wait.
Omega and Page is a team that I never really knew that I wanted. They've constantly surprised me, and based on some of our lists that we put together, we all clearly think the Revival is one of the best tag teams to come around in years. So you're going to put them together, it's going to be magic.
Yep, no argument from me. This is going to be an absolutely awesome match. If it isn't, then something must have gone horribly wrong. But I think that both teams have shown that with Kenny Omega and Adam Page, they just have this instant chemistry with each other, the odd couple dynamic, but they still manage to pull things out because they're so... I think it's just due to the fact they've had such a dynamic with the championships that it's given them purpose in the company. And so they want to hold on to it desperately, and FTR is one of the best tag teams in the world, and this is their first real big match since coming to AEW, so I think they're going to be going all out for this one.
So, frankly, I wish this was the main event.
Kind of it is in my mind. I mean, it's not going to be the main event of the night, but this is the selling point more than anything. This is
the in-ring supersell. This is the match that you will want to be watching. Over any other match, this is probably the match that people are going to say, okay, I'll buy the replay just to see this match.
It would be so refreshing if they just went, hey, the AEW World Tag Team titles is a world title. This is what we're putting on last.
I think that they are going to have a tag team title main eventing. I just think you'll be at Full Gear instead.
Exactly.
I think that that's a really good chance that that's going to happen, and it'll be the Young Bucks against FTR.
It will either be the Young Bucks against FTR, it will be a triple threat tag with all three of those teams.
Well, that kind of brings up one of the scenarios we got to talk about here is Hangman Adam Page is, he's been excommunicated from the Elite by the Young Bucks. Kenny Omega seems to still be on board with being his tag team partner. It's not like, let's split the tag team up and not be champions anymore or anything like that. It wouldn't make any sense anyway, but you know what I mean? They've done weirder things in wrestling before. And they've both hinted at the idea that Page is a part of this Four Horsemen type stable that they're building, and said that that's not the case. Now, one could be a lie, one could be the truth, whatever, that's the whole angle. That's what you're supposed to be intrigued about. I think that there's equal footing for both scenarios to happen, where Page ultimately screws Omega and he does join FTR, and we get, for instance, Page versus Omega at Full Gear and FTR versus Young Bucks. Or that Page is not a part of that and that they lose these titles anyway. And maybe even Page and Omega do have a singles match at Full Gear, but the story going forward isn't so much Page helped out FTR as much as it is Page is the loner on the outside. He's not really a part of the Elite, but he's also not a part of this Four Horsemen type thing, and he's the Stone Cold without a stable, essentially. You get Omega and the Young Bucks against FTR and Shawn Spears up until the point where they announce, probably, I'm assuming, Cody is that other member of the Four Horsemen type stable. And at that point, I mean, you can start fantasy booking Natural Nightmares against people and Dark Order against people, different things like that. But I do think we're taking one step forward in that whole split with this. And Page and Omega lose, but they not only lose the titles, they also go their separate ways after this point. I don't think that we're getting Page and Omega in a triple threat scenario.
I think this is going to open up your main event scene so much when you split Page and Omega, because that's two major singles guys.
Yeah, and at some point they're going to have to do an Omega versus John Moxley feud. Have them just have a long program. So I'm hoping that this will be the start of Kenny Omega finally getting elevated, because fuck me if AEW neutered him.
He has been teasing the return to the cleaner character.
I'd love for him to just go fucking heel. He's way, full on heel. He's way better that way.
That's part of the whole discussion, is the fact that when they do split, they can't turn Adam Page heel. He got too over as this beer drinking, he's like hard hitting but doesn't really care about anything else type of attitude that got him more over than anything else. So I think they'll do take a step backwards if he screws Kenny in this match. And first of all, it would make no sense, because why would you have a really good long match and then just screw your partner at the end of it anyway? Unless you're telling this story throughout it about how Kenny and Adam Page just can't get on the same page. And so that ends up costing them the titles when Page says, okay, I've just had enough, and decks Omega and walks out. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think that you need to separate them out very carefully to try and either turn Kenny heel, in which case the Young Bucks has to turn heel with him. So I don't think Kenny will go separately. Or you try and keep them, you tread carefully, you have their match, you have their feud, but they walk out of it as both baby faces, just slightly changed by the whole rivalry they had with each other. Because I just don't think you could turn Adam Page, and that would be the easiest thing to do.
I'm with you. Adam Page as a heel wouldn't work for me. He's such a naturally likable guy, and they've done such a good job with. The issue is when you try and make someone a babyface and likable, you normally end up making people resent them, especially in this day and age. Adam Page is legit likable. If they turned him heel, it would be such a mistake.
Yeah, I think that they can't go wrong by keeping Adam Page around about the same character that he is now, because nothing that he does now screams like the white collar baby face type attitude. He's not like a goody two shoes. He's just a dude, but that makes him relatable. And so if they keep up that character, then that will work wonders going forward and keep him as babyface for a good long time. Kenny's a lot more adaptable. Kenny could go heel and unleash this cleaner character, say that he's been mired in the tag team division for too long and now he's finally ready to step out and be the top star that he was destined to be at AEW from the start. And that could lead him towards the World Championship, because that should be the trajectory they go. Adam Page can have a bit more of a steady climb. I'd almost like this to just coincide towards the end of it, of eventually they should either be fighting for the World Championship or one of them's the other person's hurdle to get to the championship. That should really be the huge separation point, really. So I think that obviously FTR are going to win this one. I just don't think the split's happening here. And I'm not even sure it will happen by Full Gear. They do like to extend things out where they have the opportunity to.
Either way,
go ahead.
Everything we've talked about here is leaps and bounds more exciting than 90% of what we've talked about previously.
Yeah.
I am so excited for this no matter how it goes, but there's so much potential here.
If I'm fantasy booking the future, what I'd like to see is they do the split here. You get some fashion Page versus Omega. Oh my god, this dog does not want to stop barking. Sorry about that, everybody. I can't even edit it out probably at this point. You get the FTR versus Young Bucks match at Full Gear. You get Page versus Omega, and you get Omega doing that cleaner character. And I'm gonna spoil something a little bit for the future match that we're gonna talk about. I want MJF as champion, and I want Omega to lose to MJF, and eventually Page be the one that beats MJF. And maybe even at that point, once Page has a long enough title reign, loses it to heel Kenny Omega. I think that would be the scenario I'd like to see, a year plus down the line.
I think all of that sounds
where
awesome.
I don't want the turn to be during this match. If it's going to happen, I'd rather them just have a rematch on Dynamite, and that's when the turn happens. I just want this to just go long and be a really good tag match with no fucky ending.
Yeah.
I agree.
And AEW has shown enough that they don't really do fuck finishes that often. So I doubt they're going to have one on this one either. They know that, I think they understand how big a match this is, how big of draw this match is, and they want to see a finish. Fans want to see a finish towards it, so I don't think they'll screw them out of it.
They haven't had a single DQ, have they?
They've had one DQ. On one episode of Dynamite, they had one match end as a DQ. I can't remember exactly what the match was, but I know they have had one end as a DQ, but they've only had one match.
Well,
I doubt they do it on pay-per-view.
I'm fine with DQs as long as they happen on television. That's the type of place you should do a fuck finish so you can build to a pay-per-view. But I'm hoping they stick to their guns. They let this match happen clean, and Adam Page versus Kenny Omega down the line is going to be awesome, regardless of how it ends up happening.
Mm.
We got the 21-man Casino Battle Royale to talk about here. We've got most of the field set, it seems, but maybe not necessarily 100%. It's kind of a little bit ambiguous. They didn't bother to specify, like, this person is definitely in the match, and this person might not necessarily, and they might just be ringside. We had, for instance, a lot of people brawling on this past episode of Dynamite that could be a part of it, but I know we can't be counting everybody because they had like Serpentico in with the mix and everything, and I'm not picturing like a Tony Donati or anybody that might have been ringside and be a part of this. I don't think that they're going to be in the match. Darby Allin definitely is, Lance Archer, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston's whole group. It seems like Billy and Austin Gunn might be, Jake Hager, Santana and Ortiz. Best friends are Sean Spears. We don't know all 21, and that's actually one of the things that's one of the more interesting elements to this is, hey, who might be a shock to put in there? Got any ideas of what they might do as far as like surprise entrance, or do you guys think that they're just gonna kind of fill in the rest of the card with like Kip Sabian and such?
They're really going to piss you off and have to put Cody in it.
Well, there's only one person that I want to have in this match who hasn't been announced, and that's Miro, or Rusev, for the WWE. That's the only person that I would want to have in this match that isn't already been announced.
I'd pop big for Rusev.
He would have to be the final entrant in order to try and make it a surprise, because we have to talk about the fact that this is a Casino Battle Royale. I don't like this gimmick. I don't like the 5-5-5. It's really, especially when you have 4 people that haven't been announced yet to appear. So it means that at least one of these people who hasn't been announced is just going to be among a group of 4 other people walking towards the ring. Just, I just don't like the gimmick. It's something that they're trying to do to distinguish themselves and to make it special, but it just is a convoluted battle royal / Royal Rumble. So I don't like the gimmick. But if you are going to have a big star coming towards the end of it, then I think Rusev is probably the biggest you can go with at this point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a to-be decided entry that's going to win this whole thing. No one stands out right now as the obvious winner. My dream scenario would be Pentagon and him getting a singles run and never fucking touching the tag team scene again, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, all due respect, I never want to see that. Pentagon in AEW has been nothing but I'm going to do my pose for 5 minutes.
Yeah, because he's stuck in the goddamn tag division, which he shouldn't be. He's a single star. He's really good when you give him the opportunity. His Lucha Underground run was great.
I'll agree with that.
You know what annoys the hell out of me with Pentagon and with Santana and Ortiz? Their themes. Man, how many times can I hear the same line over and over again?
Yeah, you're right.
Like if I wasn't proud, then I wouldn't be powerful. If I wasn't proud, then I wouldn't be powerful. I get it. You're proud. You're powerful. You're calling yourselves that. Can we move on? And with the Pentagon and Ray Phoenix, it's
bro.
Yeah, Mexicans, Zero, meet us in the ring. Oh my God! Repeat, and then it's like, get in the fucking ring. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm fine with them all coming out. Like, I don't like this Casino Battle Royale gimmick either, but I think it'd be kind of interesting if they get away with it by going, hey, all of Eddie Kingston's group comes out at the same time as like the second group. Kind of
They're
fun.
all the spades or whatever. That would be cool because then they're beating up on whoever's in the ring.
Right. Like, that would be kind of fun way to do something. And obviously they're going to split up some things. You know, it's going to be like Brian Cage is in a different time frame than Ricky Starks is. And Ricky Starks loves his theme, by the way. Have you noticed that? He has all the little inflection points of that song down.
Stark's got like major charisma. He's real fun.
Yeah, I like Ricky Starks. I like him better than Darby Allin, for that matter. I'd be fine with Ricky Starks winning this feud. And
I was so disappointed that NWA lost him because he was actually a high point on that series.
Best Friends being thrown in here with Santana and Ortiz. They had their match on Dynamite, and I guess it's better than nothing, but it's kind of a shame that that's been more of a feud than some of the other things, and they couldn't have done something a little bit differently like that. Like,
I'd love to see Trent win this whole thing, and instead of a title shot, he gets a last name.
Well, Trent is the last name. His first name is Wares.
I'm interested to see because they've been building up towards this match a potential feud between Lance Archer and Brian Cage about who's just like the meanest motherfucker in AEW. And
well, it's Pentagon and Ray Phoenix.
Yeah. And I think that these two are going to be the first real feud for the FTW Championship when they decide what they're actually going to be doing with it.
Can someone just forget it backstage and just lose it?
Bad news. Tony Khan says the entire new TNT show or the new Warner Media show pilot that he's working on is built around the FTW title. So
really?
Yep.
Why?
Just when I thought I hated Tony Khan, I thought I hated him as much as I could. You announced something else that just makes me disgusted. Like, why do that? It's such a throwaway title. It's an ugly title. It's got no prestige.
It's Taz's title too.
They want to give it prestige. Never mind the fact that it says Taz. They want to give it prestige, and we'll see what happens.
That's that's a terrible idea. Why would you build like? You don't even own the rights to the thing. It's Taz that does, unless they bought it from him. But
I just relayed the news. I don't know.
That seems like such a terrible idea. Like, at that point, I mean, it would make more sense to build around the TNT title. At least that's TNT, you know? Like,
well, okay,
God.
In fairness, he said it's a pilot. I guess media is assuming it's the new Warner Media show, but it could be another YouTube thing. But either way, they have big plans for the FTW title, so no, it will not be forgotten backstage.
Ugh. Awful. Yeah, Archer versus Cage for the FTW championship. That seems like that's a direction that they might be going. Could just be a tease for the sake of, hey, that might happen, and then they don't. That's a swerve kind of a thing or whatever.
Well, essentially, they'll eliminate each other from this match then.
I think so. Lance Archer is one of the potential options I think could win it, though, depending on who walks out of the world title match, because they didn't do Moxley versus Archer. So if Moxley retains, maybe Archer does win.
In Japan, didn't they?
Yeah, they had a big
Texas Death Match, actually.
Yeah, Texas. I talked about Texas Death Match earlier. Yeah, it was one of their better feuds that Moxley's had over there. It might be the only feud he's had over there, though.
I think matches like this lead themselves to great surprise entrance at number 21. I'd love to see, Miro or, some dickhead's going to say Brock Lesnar.
I was just going to say, how much you want to bet somebody out there's going, this is where Brock Lesnar comes in and he fucking rips everybody
and I'll say it
apart.
again. If Brock Lesnar comes in, JR on the call would be tremendous. It'd be a rare highlight in AEW for JR.
JR is going to be like, I've been entertained.
But I'm actually going to go with something I hope happens, and that's they surprise us, and Pac is back, and he wins the Battle Royale.
Oh, shit. Pac wasn't even on this card.
He hasn't been around since, March.
I think you're going to be disappointed if you think that's going to happen.
I can live.
Is he stuck Is he stuck in England? Is he stuck in Japan? Where is he?
He's in England. Yeah, he's in England right now. And unless he was flown over 2 or 3 weeks ago and has been quarantining all that time in preparation for this, I don't think that it's very likely he'll be appearing in this one. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I think it's unlikely. I think
That's a lot to unpack.
Damn it, Tony. Either way, we're not doing any fantasy league stuff, so I'll be a dick and just say number 21, a surprise 21 entrant wins, but I'm going with Pac.
Well, I'm going to go with a no name, not no name, an unknown person wins this as well. But here's something that I think we need to take into account. It is the 21-man Casino Battle Royale, and we know that Jake Roberts has Lance Archer's back. Jake Roberts is a master of the 21. You think you got 21? I got 22. Does he have some?
Why are you bringing that up now?
Tony, what are you doing?
It's a very different time, Tony. That was like it was a really bad time in his life. It's 20 years before.
It's like the Pac joke wasn't enough.
Yeah,
I had to go with it now because we might never get that again.
They literally, the first thing they did with Jake was he was dealing the cards saying, "Oh, you want to play 21?" That was the first thing they did, Tony.
Jake Roberts has been fucking amazing lately with how weird his shit has been. His most recent promos were, look at these two, they're the Flintstones, and here's, there's Betty and there's Barney, whatever. And then the more recent one, this past one last night on Dynamite, he's like, you're a couple of squirrels and you're not gonna bust a nut.
Well, I'm glad that Jake the Stick Roberts all these years later is entertaining you, Tony.
Oh my god, it's been the best part of this whole thing. Like, I couldn't care less about Darby Allin runs in and he starts attacking the Ricky Starks. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Can you just get the mic back on with Jake Roberts? Because this is great. And they're all brawling in the ring for however long they were. It was like a full commercial break. JR is doing his whole, like, we got picture-in-picture coming your way. How about in about 3 seconds right now? Like, that kind of thing. And Jake Roberts is just sitting there laughing. He's just kind of like, this is fucking great. Like, I loved it. I thought that was fantastic. For that matter, fuck it. Give it to Jake Roberts. He wins. He fucking wins the Battle Royal. Why not? But, yeah, I'm going, an unknown from this element wins, and it's not somebody like a Kip Sabian or, Jimmy Havoc doesn't return or something like that. It's just maybe Miro does get in the mix here. Maybe it is some kind of you never see it come in type of thing. Maybe it's another person from NWA, for that matter.
Somebody pitched like Nick Aldis is number 21 and he just gets a random AEW world title shot. I wouldn't mind that. I like Aldis. Would like to see him do more. That'd be a cool one. I
guess instead of necessarily picking who might win out of an unknown scenario, maybe we'll do this too. Is a babyface winning or is a heel winning?
Babyface.
They don't have those in AEW, Tony.
Oh, shut up. Every time Cody says that shit, I just fuck him. Oh, those are antiquated terms. Shut the fuck up.
What is Dark Order then? Well, they're not heels, they're villains.
They're the darkest shade of grey.
There you go.
I'm going to babyface wins.
Yeah.
I'm going with babyface win. Or if it's a new guy, then he'll just be popped as a babyface because they don't know what alignment he is yet.
Where you going face or heel? Babyface?
Babyface.
All right. We've got the Mimosa Mayhem match, but before we do that, let me just toss out another quick plug here. Merchandise shops, TeePublic and Redbubble. Pretty much Jericho takes every single thing that he says and makes a t-shirt or a trademark out of it. A match, too. I can't do quite the same because I don't have the same type of platform, but if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see, then by all means, let them, come my way, and I will try to make some kind of a design for it, and because there's Redbubble and there's TeePublic and there's shops for A Mango Tees and Fanboys Anonymous and Smark Out Moment. And with all those shops, there's different designs and different products that you can put those designs on. So maybe you are really in the mood for a notebook that has whatever type of thing on it. Or maybe you just really want a mask that you can wear out these days that has whatever type of design. I don't know. Then, just pick it up and that will make you a much cooler person. I don't know. It's great because all that money comes towards helping fund grow Smark at Moment and stuff. And for that matter, the same thing for Fanboys Anonymous, which is the other site that I have that just deals with everything that's not on the pro wrestling spectrum, mostly movies, but every once in a while I get the mood to write something about something TV related or something with the comic side of things or a video games thing too, mostly Pokemon, because I tend not to think of anything other than the Pokemon stuff. I recently wrote a random article in the middle of the night where I was just like, hey, Janine, she shouldn't be a gym leader. And I was just like, I got 20 minutes. Let me just go ahead and write that up real quick. Things like that happen. So if you want more for the Fanboys Anonymous content, hit up the Patreon for that. Subscribe to all those platforms, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Twitter, so on and so forth. Pick up the merchandise there. Just show more love to the fanboys side of things, and then we'll try to do more. I'd love to do more. The Mimosa Mayhem match, though, is the Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy scenario where you can win by pinfall, submission, or by tossing the opponent in a vat of mimosa. And I will have to say here, the thing I love about this is you've got the whole Jericho with a little bit of the bubbly. You got the Orange Cassidy thing. They found a way to mix it together for a mimosa thing. That seems like the type of nonsense that I would pitch, and I love it. This feud's been fun. The matches have been good. And you took a logical and funny setup. How can they do something so great like that and then at the same time do like the Dark Order thing and be like, it's whatever, It's got to be Jericho having the right creative control over that kind of a scenario. And if he's the one that created this mix with the champagne and the orange equals the mimosa type thing, whoever thought of that, hats off to you, because that's fantastic.
I don't know if Jericho invented mimosas, Tony, but he has invented a lot of things.
He might have. I don't know. How long has a mimosa been around?
I would have no clue.
Yeah. Not idea.
It'd be weird if this match ends in any other way other than Jericho getting drenched and humiliated.
So, go ahead, Callum.
Well, that's the thing. He will get drenched and humiliated. It's just whether he wins the match before that happens or not.
Right.
Obviously,
that's a good point. Yeah.
The stipulation is that it doesn't have to end with that. That's just one of the ways that it can end. At the end of the day, we are going to see Jericho swimming in a vat of mimosa.
Right.
So that's the fun thing that everyone's looking forward to. It's just whether he wins the match before that happens anyway. Or whether that's how he loses. Yeah,
now that you've said that, it's changed my mind completely on it. Jericho wins, and then Cassidy gets his heat back by dumping him in there.
100% exactly the way that I've been going. He wins by pinfall or submission, big brawl at the end of it, and not only Jericho, but other members of the Inner Circle as well, I think, get tossed into the vat.
See, I don't see that happening just because that doesn't feel like the end of a feud. Because if Jericho wins and then Cassidy throws him in the tank, it's like, okay, they both went 50-50 on this, so we need another match between them to see who actually is the definitive winner of this feud. I think this is the time you give Cassidy the win and just go with him for a bit. See where it takes you, because they have something with Orange Cassidy that I don't think they realised how big of a deal he was going to be for them, or at least this early on in his run with AEW.
I mean, who would have thought Fire Ant from fucking Hikaru was going to end up getting this over?
Was he under the Fire Ant mask?
Yeah, I learned that the other day, and it fucking blew my mind.
Oh, get out of here. That's fucking rad. I had no clue about that.
If you have something with the guy and you think that he would be like a good stopgap world champion challenger, or he could fight Brodie Lee for the TNT championship, then why not just give him a win? Jericho's not going to be hurt by it. Jericho could win a couple of matches and be a world championship contender immediately afterwards. So he doesn't lose anything. He helps get another guy over. So I think that's the way they should go about it. Whether they do is obviously the real question. But I think that having Jericho, it's either going to be, for me, it's either Jericho wins and then it's someone else other than Orange Cassidy that throws him into the Mimosa, and that's Jericho's next feud, or Cassidy wins and he wins by embarrassing Jericho.
Hey, look at that. We fixed the Skype issues. Hey, so we're at the very last match almost, and now it's going to sound the way that it normally does. But piggybacking where we had left off with the Jericho and Cassidy situation, I think that they could give Cassidy the win, but ultimately Jericho is somebody that is the bigger priority. I mean, Cassidy's not going to go into the world title situation immediately after this or anything, I would assume. So if he loses, I mean, he loses to Jericho. He got to win over Jericho in the meantime, and he will get the heat back by doing the whole toss him in the tank type of thing. I think it's a better decision to go with the 50-50 split a little bit. Jericho wins by maybe just wait, actually, how did he win the previous one? Did he win with the Judas effect?
Yeah.
So maybe he wins by Lion Tamer this time, or Codebreaker, or something like that. And
Does
then
anyone like the Judas effect? Just wondering.
Jericho, I guess.
It's fine.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, you've got a perfectly good Codebreaker if you want, like, a sudden finish. That was such a good movie added to his repertoire, and I'm just like, why the Judas effect?
Because he has to move less.
He hit a really good Codebreaker against Joe Janela this week on Dynamite. So,
I'm a big fan of the Codebreaker.
Yeah, it's a good move. He should just utilize that instead. I don't know why he needs to add the Judas effect. I think he added it for just to give himself something new, because he always needs something new to talk about or something new that he's done. I respect that about Jericho, because he doesn't like to just rest on his laurels. But I would think that the Judas effect was a step in the wrong direction.
It's like, man, I look like shit. I'm old. I'm aging. I should add a really bad finisher. That'll help.
It's like, how do I make something just about as underwhelming as John Cena hyping up his 6th move of doom and having it be a chop? The lightning fist or whatever. That was what he called it, right? The lightning fist?
John Cena after Mania with Taker is non-canonical. Don't count anything he's ever done with that shit.
Just imagine, I'm going to this company with all this young talent. I'm going to beat them with a lazy back elbow.
Yeah. And be the champion out of the mix, too. I'm going Jericho wins. I think this should be a lot of fun. And I am not a fan of mimosas, because I don't drink. So
I've never had a mimosa, but I think Jericho gets dumped in it after he wins. I think that's how they'll get his heat back. And Jericho can start a new feud with somebody, just making him fun for getting dunked.
I don't like the idea that they're giving themselves this out by saying it's pinfall submission or the mimosa. I think the fact that it's a Mimosa Mayhem match should mean somebody's going in. But I'm going to say Jericho gets the win, brags about being the best, and then Mike Tyson comes back and dumps it in the mimosa, because they still have to pay that off.
Oh, if they gave Cassidy's heat to Mike Tyson, that'd be terrible.
I'm going to be the odd person out then and go with Orange Cassidy wins by throwing Jericho into the mimosa.
You think Cassidy could be a good challenger for Moxley as like a stopgap for...
Well, he won't be challenging Moxley.
Well, either one as a stopgap for Full Gear.
You need. I mean, MJF, if he does win the title, needs people to beat. So I imagine that people like Orange Cassidy and Jungle Boy are going to step up to face him for the title at some point. So he won't be the next champion, but I could see him fighting for the title. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it too.
For that matter, let's talk about that, because it's Jon Moxley against MJF for the AEW World Championship. I think maybe it might be all across the board here, MJF winning.
Yeah.
Honestly, no. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on MJF. I think they regard Jon Moxley as a big draw, and I think they're going to keep him in that position. I think they should pull the trigger on MJF. It seems like it's the perfect time to do it, but I don't know.
I'm 60-40 towards MJF right now, so MJF is my official prediction, but I could see that they see a lot of value in Jon Moxley staying as champion right now, and there's every reason to suggest that he should remain champion. I don't think the luster has fallen off him being the champion yet. I feel like he still has a lot of matches with some people that have been, like Kenny Omega and Adam Page, who have been stuck in the tag team scene basically the entire time that he's been champion, that he can feud with and see if they can like get some decent matches out of them. Maybe one of them wins the title from him instead. But I feel like now's a good opportunity to run with MJF and see how he translates as a champion. Jon Moxley's done a lot with the belt. He's helped give it a bit more prestige after winning it from Jericho. This would only be the third person to be the AEW champion, and then nearly well, they're over a year old essentially since the first title won. So both champions have given it a decent amount of prestige, and so just try and transfer that over into a guy who's fresh face, who's never been a world champion before, and see what he does with it.
And that would be a good sign of them not just doing what they did with the previous two. I mean, this is supposed to be the difference from WWE and who's been champion. It's been Jericho and Moxley, two WWE guys.
Yeah, this will be their first test in a guy that they've made becoming AEW champion and seeing how that goes, because like you say, they've had Jericho, that has a long reputation in WWE, same with Moxley. This will be a guy who basically a lot of people, they might have known him from obviously the independent circuit and the stuff that he's done with MLW and other areas, but this is the first real person that AEW's kind of created and molded into their own character.
Here's the thing that I have an issue with MJF. He's not exactly over. He's over as a dick on Twitter. Like, he gets reactions on Twitter. He's really not that over in the wrestling world.
I would disagree with that. I think he's one of the few who isn't just a dick on Twitter, and because he does good character work on TV, people are very engaged with the character that they see on TV. It's not like Janela is over on Twitter. You know what I mean? MJF is a completely different ball game, and I think he's very much over.
I think that his matches so far this year, and he doesn't wrestle that often, which is actually to his benefit because he never really gets an opportunity to go too stale. And he lets his talking do the work, and his talking is a lot better than his wrestling. Not so that his wrestling is bad, but he's just an excellent talker. But his actual matches, like the stuff that he's done with Jungle Boy in particular and some of the other tag team matches, he's really good in the ring. And I think that this match will be pretty good, especially because they're going to have to work around the fact that Moxley can't use the paradigm shift.
I think the match is just going to be very okay. I don't think it's going to blow the doors off, and I think it's going to be kind of underwhelming after we see that tag match, which is why
everything is bound to be underwhelming.
Which is why I wanted it to go on last.
I'll flat out say I don't think this is even going to be a good match, maybe necessarily.
What really indication do you have that this won't be a good match?
I don't think that they're going to work out well together.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, I'll take that on. Jon Moxley is not had the biggest repertoire of great matches, even in WWE. For every fucking great match that he had a bunch of just okay or shitty matches.
I think that Moxley's best thing is when he can brawl with weapons, and I don't see that happening here because it's not like an ODQ match and stuff. And for what I've seen of MJF can work really well with he and Jungle Boy have great contests and stuff, but then again, how much of that is necessarily Jungle Boy or some of the other people? I don't think MJF's strength is his in-ring work by any means.
Moxley doesn't have a history of carrying guys to great matches. I want to see Moxley wrestle people in a more hardcore environment like he did Omega. He's got plenty of dance partners.
I think I'm with Callum in that maybe it's just a shift away from what we traditionally now know as a good match. I think it'll be a good match for what it is. They don't have to have a bell-to-bell classic.
I think that you say that MJF's strength isn't his in-ring work, but that's because his promos are so good. It's not because he's a bad in-ring worker.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's awful.
I think that every single match that MJF's had in a singles capacity has been good to great in AEW. It's either been a very good squash match, or it's been the match with Cody, which was very good, or the match with Jungle Boy, which I thought was great. He's given me no indication that this is going to be a bad match. It's not going to be as good as a tag team match, I grant you that.
How long do you think this match can go, and how long is too long for an MJF match?
I'd say this could go a solid 20 to 25 and still be good.
I'm hoping 15.
I'm hoping anything past 15. I don't trust MJF or Moxley with MJF as a dance partner to deliver with.
I thought Moxley had a good match at Double or Nothing with Brodie Lee, and granted that's a little bit more the brawling style, but I think
the fact that Brodie Lee's a great worker and doesn't get his kudos.
I think this will be a lot better than maybe some are giving it credit for, but that's because again I think there is still an idea that this company was going to be the Kenny Omega has 7-star matches every month company, and it hasn't been that. And I think for what we've seen from AEW, it'll be a pretty good match.
The good thing about this is that these two should understand psychology a lot better than some of the other things. So you might not get the same. You're going to get kind of the opposite, I think, actually, in some regards from the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express match. That's probably just going to be spot, 20 minutes, whatever, and then the end of the match. Whereas this one will be maybe to some people boring in comparison, but it'll have more depth to it.
Yeah, this
I
is
hope
going to be
someone like Arn's agenting this match, because you very much like you said, it's got to be about psychology, and they do have one thing going for them, and that's the whole paradigm shift being taken out of the match. So Moxley's going to have to come up with a different way to get the job done.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the reason why I'm looking forward to it is probably because it's going to be very different from all the other matches, because it's going to be a lot more old school, because MJF does, even though he's incredibly young, he does wrestle with a very old school mentality. And Jon Moxley is more of a brawler, and he's going to be... I see this being more of akin to matches that you'd see from like the 80s in the NWA, as opposed to the obviously more high-octane style we're going to see in like Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks, or even like Omega and Page against FTR, or at least from one side of that equation. So I think that's the selling point. This match is going to be very different world title match than basically anything else that we're going to see from the card.
Yeah, so I'm going MJF.
I'm going Moxley.
I'll stick with MJF.
MJF wins, and he does it with the paradigm shift.
So that's all out. Of course, this is happening this Saturday, as mentioned before. We're going to do our normal breakdown of everything that happened on there, and our review and the recap and all that stuff on the post-show podcast afterward, which will maybe be at like midnight or so. Of course, it's going to be later on afterward that we actually have it up on YouTube, because we're not doing that live. So Sunday, at the very least, you'll be able to listen to our review of that. Live coverage on smarkoutmoment.com during the show. I'll have my stuff up on eWrestling News and on Bleacher Report, talking about my quick thoughts afterward in, editorial format and everything. But I think we pretty much broke down everything that we need to talk about. I don't think that there's anything else, but if there is, drop a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on what we missed out on, and we'll try to chime in with some kind of a retort. Hopefully it's great. There's a lot of potential, and we'll see how it goes. I did most of my plugs, but these guys have some other things that they want to get you to check out and to pay attention to going forward. Rob?
Yeah, you can, while you're watching All Out, make sure you're tuned into WrestleZone and Fightful for all the minute-to-minute breakdown of the news. I'm sure there will be a post-show media call, which both websites will have representation on, and it should be a fun weekend. Also, you can check me out on Twitter at DudeFelice. Callum?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. There is the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, which me and Rob go through to the year 2002. Check out all of the episodes of SmackDown that Paul Heyman was the head writer for, so make sure you're following every single episode of that every Saturday. Then there's also the Fantasy League, which you'll get your first update in the Mega Maniacs this weekend after SmackDown happens. All the points are tabulated, and we have the first trades being made as well this weekend as well, so I'll make sure that everyone is updated on that front as well. Check out all the great articles on smarkoutmoment.com, including the Power Rankings, my weekly contribution every Saturday. And yeah, that's it from me.
You can follow me at Stephen Wago on Twitter. I'll have any links that I have pinned over there. And until then, fuck Mike Quackenbush.
And follow me at Tony Mango and at A Mango Tree, and obviously at Smark Out Moment and Fanboys and On and all that other kind of stuff. And if you just start clicking around and liking things and following things and doing all that stuff, then that is great. But any support you show us is awesome, including just the fact that you listened to this episode. So I hope you listen to the next one, which is going to be the Hot Tags. We got the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast after that. Then we got the post show for this. And then next week, I don't really know. We're going to have to figure that out in due time. If you have any suggestions...
WWE will throw in another pay-per-view. Don't worry, Tony.
They might.
Finally do Superstar Scores Marty Jannetty.
Maybe, I don't know. If you have any suggestions, drop in the comments below, and we'll take those into consideration and try to work that in with next week. But we'll see you when we see you, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.